I guess some people have their own unique way of showing love. A brother's infinite wisdom. A brother emotionally scarred because I changed my name. My 30-year-old female little brother, 24-year-old male, and I have never gotten along, mostly because he is entitled and thinks the world revolves around him. My parents have never gotten along either, which contributed greatly to why I grew up fairly down to earth, and my brother is a self-centered man-child. Recently, I changed my last name to my mother's maiden name. I had my dad's last name before because I have never liked the last name I was given, and I've always wanted my name to reflect the family that raised me. My brother recently found out that I did this and said, "Oh, so you don't want to be my sister anymore? That's my last name. You don't want to be associated with me? Wow, I guess we know what side you're choosing. I can't believe you would do this to me. So, you're telling me that I'm supposed to be ashamed of my name? Then is that it? Did you even once stop to think how this is going to affect me?" Funny enough, I answered, I didn't think of you at all. Update. My 31-year-old female brother and 25-year-old male have always been an entitled brat. He has lived in my house, which my mom and I bought and renovated, for 5 years now. He didn't start contributing to the household bills until about 2 years ago, and he makes sure to throw that in my mom's faces every month as if it's some big favor he has done. He has always complained about living here and how miserable he is because he's treated so poorly. He's treated like a prince by my mom, and the house is such a mess. His room used to be our studio space, where my mom and I kept our workspaces and supplies. I'm a designer. My mom is an artist. When he moved in, we turned our living room into a makeshift office for ourselves, so our supplies are kept on various shelving units in our living space. My brother has always complained about how cluttered and dirty the house is, and how he hates living here, blah blah. I've told him repeatedly that if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to live here. He said I should accommodate him instead, because he's family, and families should respect each other. It's a small house, and we were doing our best with what little space we have. But he says it's embarrassing that we don't even have a space for a couch and TV. We used to, until he moved in 2 months ago. He announced that he's being forced to move in with his girlfriend because he can't live like this anymore, because my mother and I are just so awful for asking him to help with the bills and have the audacity to have our work spaces in the living room. Since he informed us of this, he hasn't packed a single box and he refuses to give me any kind of time frame. But I overheard him telling his dad he expects to move out in September. Today, I came home to a bunch of stuff, including kitchen items like sodas and snacks, stacked in my room and on my work desk, which had my laptop and my design drawings on the table. I was confused and annoyed because I was afraid they had been crushed. I asked my mom if she did that, and she told me it was my brother. I want to ask him why the hell he did that, and that I didn't appreciate him moving my crap and potentially ruining my work. He went off on me, saying he made an executive decision to finally clean up. I laughed because he has his own bathroom and the largest bedroom, and they're both filthy. He decided my mom's and my things needed to be allocated to our spaces and kept out of the common spaces, the kitchen and dining area. His logic was, since I'm the only one who consumes certain sodas and snacks, that they need to be kept in my room. None of his food or drinks were taken out of the kitchen. Anything that he didn't deem worthy of being in the communal space, he just tossed into a pile on mine and my mother's desk and in our rooms, mind you. His shoes, moving boxes, and bags are all over the hallway. My mom and I always have to step over his crap when we walk by his room, and we don't move anything. I told him he needs to respect our things in our space. He said it's not for me to dictate. I said, yes, it is, it's my house, but he wouldn't hear of it. He screamed at me, saying I had to thank him for cleaning my mess and that I better apologize for being so ungrateful. I reminded him that he's moving out, so why would he be so bothered about how my house looks? I told him I can't organize anything until he moves out, and he lost his crap, saying, how effing dare you? I guess you can't wait for me to leave. I rolled my eyes and told him that not everything I say and do is a personal attack on him. He was screaming at me, saying that my power trip is my way of abusing him. I got fed up at that point and walked away to avoid losing my cool. It takes a very deluded person to make demands and set rules that never seem to apply to him in someone else's home. The entitlement is editing one for those saying, evict him. There's no need. I don't want to get into the whole history of eviction threats and ultimatums, But the gist is this. My mom loves her son too much to refuse him shelter. I don't understand it, but because I love her, I respect it. Plus, he's been angling to leave for a long time. Those are the only reasons I let him stay. Not to mention, I just finished grad school, so I'm starting to save up for my own place. Editing 2. If and when my mom passes, the house will be 100% mine, hence why I refuse to lose my stake in it or sell it. His logic is all over the place. He wants to make rules in a house that's not his and gets upset when those rules don't apply to him. It's also incredibly frustrating how he's taking no responsibility for his actions, but somehow expects gratitude for things that make no sense, like cleaning your things while leaving his own mess behind. Hopefully, once he moves out, things can finally settle into a routine that works for everyone. Update. Entitled brother finally got what he deserved. I, a 31-year-old female, am in shock over the throwdown that I witnessed between my mom, a woman in her 60s, and my entitled brother, a 26-year-old male. My brother has been mooching off of my mom and me. She and I co-own the house since 2017. He lived rent-free for 4 years. Finally, my mom managed to force him to pay his form of rent by paying some utility bills, a total of about $450 a month. Since 2021, he has never paid his bills willingly. Every month, he demands to know why he has to pay the amount and demands proof of the cost, as if my mom was trying to swindle him for some reason. And every time he has finally given us the money for the bills, he has told us he was bailing us out. Since we must be broke, why else would we be making him pay for us? Recently, he's been going off about how he can't wait to leave the house and wants to save his money to move out, but he simply can't with the cost of all these bills weighing him down. My mother told him that since he is so serious about moving out, she will gladly pay for his portion of the bills. She works seasonally, and all he would need to do was pay his car insurance. She said she would give him until May 31st to save up as much as he could. He would then need to move out. Since that agreement was made, my brother has gone on 2 trips out of state. One was a 4-day bachelorette party in New Orleans, and has gone to poker nights with his friends multiple times. He refuses to so much as wash a dish and leaves a greasy mess whenever he goes in the house. Meanwhile, my mom has worked 6 days a week to make enough money to cover his expenses, and yet my entitled brother hasn't thanked her once. Every time she asks him to do the simplest task, he ignores her or claims he forgot, despite how often she reminds him. Today, she finally snapped. His one bill, that he's responsible for, was due 4 days ago, and he never paid her. She texted him and reminded him verbally many times. She asked if he got the text one last time today, and he finally responded by asking her to give him a receipt so she could prove the insurance cost, what she claimed it cost. And he never sent the money. She lost it and said she is sick of catering to him without so much as a thank you. She said she wants peace, and he is no longer worth the trouble she goes through. She said she is removing him from the car insurance tomorrow, and that he no longer has until the end of May to move out. He has 3 weeks, that's it. She's threatened to kick him out before, but hasn't gone through with it yet. But this time felt different, because I have never seen her go nuclear like that before. And the entitled brother must have felt the same way, because he went through the 5 stages of grief about 100 times during that fight. He screamed, cried, accused, name-called, and tried to pull me in to defend him. Then he tried to pull his dad, Liv, who was 2 hours away, to defend him. He tried to call my mom's sisters to defend him. He claimed getting his own insurance was an emotional burden, claimed she needs professional help because she is obviously out of her mind, so that she obviously doesn't care about him. Otherwise, why would she so cruelly deprive him of such valuable resources? He went on and on for 3 hours, and she didn't budge. I don't want to get my hopes up that she'll stick to that 3-week deadline, but this is the closest thing she's come to evicting him. I hope this will scare him into leaving before she has to update and inform my brother. My brother informed me that he would be taking my dog for 3 days without my permission. For those of you who aren't familiar with my stories, I, a 31-year-old female, have a man-child, entitled brother, a 26-year-old male, who lives in our house. I co-own this house with my mom, who has told him he has until May 31st to move out. I've been anxiously waiting for him to leave, doing my best to buy time, but I have finally reached the end of my rope. And for something that I'm not sure is a straw or the log that broke the camel's back, last night while I was in bed, My brother informed me he would be taking Spot for 3 days on some fishing trip. I told him there's no way he could do that. He said he wasn't asking. He was telling me. He said Spot is his dog too, and that he's entitled to take him whenever he pleases. Here's the thing though. 9 years ago, my entitled brother demanded a dog. I begged my mom not to give him one. He had one previously but neglected it, and my mom ended up rehoming it, which he never let her hear the end of. But, of course, she caved, and the same problem persisted. My brother never cared for Spot, so I ended up taking over his care, paying for his vet bills, feeding him, and taking him to get groomed, etc. Things came to a head when we had to move in with family members who said we were not allowed to bring a dog. My brother didn't do anything to find Spot a new home. It was my problem. I found him a foster home where I visited him every day after my college classes ended, and was able to get him back 2 years later when we finally had a place to live again. Additionally, when I moved out of my house for a year, Spot went with me. Spot sleeps with me every night and has my name on all his records. He's now 10 and has arthritis. He takes meds for his hips and his stomach, and he needs frequent bathroom breaks. Oh, and he hates the water. So, when my little brother said he wasn't asking, he was telling me. I knew Spot would be miserable and possibly in pain the whole trip. He hadn't asked or even mentioned taking Spot before, so he is due for a refill on his pills tomorrow. Had I known, I would have gotten the refill sooner. I tried telling him Spot needs a lot of care, and he said, yeah, so just give me everything he needs. I was so irritated. You wait until the night before to tell me this. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. I could have just taken him and let you panic, but I was being nice, telling you ahead of time. That did it. I don't know why, but every alarm bell went off in my head. I grabbed my purse, put on my slippers, and told Spot to get in the car. I drove to my fiancé's house and slept there last night. I was going to move into my fiancé's house this summer, but now I'm asking myself why the hell I'm waiting. Everyone keeps asking me why I stay home, and right now, I can't remember any of the reasons I had before. I'm done. My mom is staying out of it right now, and I'm glad because I genuinely don't care what she has to say. I know she doesn't want me to go, but I can't just take the entitled bro's little power trips. He can do whatever he wants to the house, punching holes in the walls, kicking the appliances, calling the house a dump, but I draw the line at him taking my dog without my permission. That's my baby, and I'm not going to just stand there while he does whatever he wants with my pet when I explicitly told him no, something that he rarely hears. P.S. I occasionally have asked Bro to let Spot out for bathroom breaks since he doesn't work until the afternoon, and his response is always, he's too busy to do that. He's given me no reason to trust him to care for my dog for even a few hours, let alone 3 days on a fishing trip. Edit. Brother does not know where my fiancé lives, and even if he did, my fiancé's 2 huge German shepherds would devour him. Oh boy, your brother's a walking disaster. He really thought he could just inform you he was taking your dog. I'm glad you finally drew the line. This man-child is a master of overstepping boundaries, and that was the final straw. I'm not sure what's more shocking, his audacity to think he has any claim over your dog or how long it took for you to get fed up. It's been years of him treating you and your mom like personal servants, and the fact that he's still pulling this crap at 26 is insane. Final update. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for all their support, well wishes, and for reaching out to check on me and Spot. It was such a relief to know that so many of you would have had the same instinctual reaction to my situation. After many months, I finally have an update for you all, and TLE Bro has finally moved out. However, he didn't move out until the end of July. He was supposed to move out by May 31st, but my mother allowed him to push the date back twice. I was not pleased, but since I moved out abruptly in April, I couldn't let myself get worked up over it. I was focusing on making a safe space for Spot and myself. Since TLE Bro has moved out, my mother has made the house her own, and I'm proud to say it is finally everything she envisioned it to be. The house looks immaculate now that entitled Bro isn't crowding her space. She is very proud of all her home improvement projects and always has something new that she wants to show me when I visit. She seems so happy. The only thing that concerns me is how uncharacteristically friendly entitled Bro has been acting with her since he moved out. More on that later. Spot is doing so much better since we went to live with my fiancé, and his 2 German Shepherds. I think the fiancé's dogs understood that Spot is older and not quite as athletic as them, but that doesn't stop him from trying to keep up with them. After moving in, Spot's favorite pastimes include running around the huge yard, laying in the sun, and eating the little tasty nuggets that the chickens leave in the yard. Yes, I mean the chicken poop. If you have read this far and are wondering what took me so long to update, I do apologize for the delay, but I have a good reason. My fiancé and I bought our first home. We fell in love with a tiny little house in our ideal area and had been working on renovating it. I'm very pleased to announce that we moved in last month, and if that wasn't good enough news for you, here is the biggest announcement of all. We got married. After all the hard work we put into the house, we knew it was a perfect place for us to tie the knot. We invited his dad, his siblings, and my mom over, and we had a quick ceremony in our living room amongst unpacked boxes and mismatched furniture. It was perfect, but this wouldn't be an Entitled People post without some Entitled Bro stories. Here are some of the highlights, for lack of a better term, of what I've dealt with since my last post. For the 3 to 4 weeks after I moved out, Entitled Bro would not stop asking, "Where's Spot? Where's my dog?" over and over. I just ignored him, but while I was silent, he said a lot of very revealing things, such as, "I bet you won't bring Spot back because you're afraid I'll do the same thing to you," meaning taking off with Spot. I wanted to point out the whole reason I felt the need to remove Spot was because he threatened to take my dog without my permission, but I didn't waste my breath. At one point, he got so worked up that he said, "Fine, don't tell me where Spot is. I'll find out," which only solidified my confidence that I made the right choice. A couple of months ago, he had information that I needed in order to help our aunt with a task. My aunt asked him to please send me the info so I could complete the task for her. He said he would, but he never sent me anything, despite how many times she reminded him. It got to the point where the deadline was getting close, so I had to call and text him multiple times. He refused to give me anything, saying I needed to apologize for being so rude because I had the audacity to ask him for the info. I then asked my cousin, Molly, to text him, saying she was the one to contact. Instead, he sent the info to her instantly, and I had Molly forward the info to me. The look on his face when he later found out I was the one who took care of everything for my aunt was priceless. He enjoys having things held over my head. The final thing I will mention is Entitled Bro. He was a nightmare for my mother until the day he moved out. He went through waves of giving my mom the silent treatment, then angrily hounding her for ruining his life, having personal pity parties, and saying things like he was so depressed and didn't want to live anymore. My mom got so fed up that by his moving out day, she had no pity for him anymore, just secondhand embarrassment. But then he did something very strange. He was literally in the middle of yelling at her and blaming her for all of his shortcomings when he suddenly broke down and cried, saying he was sorry for what he put her through. All he wants is to be loved by his mom and sister, and he asked, "What would you do if I killed myself?" My mom said she thought it was a miracle from God, and I tried to gently ask her if it wasn't more likely that it was just a manipulation. She said she is choosing to believe that this is a sign that her son is finally changing for the better. I find it very hard to believe. So now he acts as if he was never the hell spawn that plagued our home for 8 years, and my mom is so happy because she thinks that now her son is reformed. I think it's more likely that he is just trying to stay in her good graces because he wants to use her as a safety net. My mom claims she would never take him back in unless it was a true emergency, but I don't know about that. That is the only thing about Entitled Bro that makes me uneasy to this day. Other than that, I have no interest in dealing with him and will not be including him in anything. He does not have my address, and my relatives know not to share it with him. Although I have to deal with a lot of drama these past few months, I'm so relieved that I left a tumultuous home life when I did. If I hadn't, it wouldn't have been a safe space for myself or Spot. I wouldn't finally have a home of my own with someone who loves me completely, and I wouldn't have married the sweetest, most supportive man I've ever met. I'm so grateful to be able to write this happy update on my couch in my home, with my husband at my side and my sweet Spot laying his head on my lap. Thank you again for being here for me and for waiting so patiently for an update. I hope it was worth the wait. Your mom's reaction is understandable, though sometimes it's hard to face that someone we love is using us, even when we know it. but I think you're absolutely right to trust your instincts here. Keep protecting your peace and don't let anyone drag you back into that toxic dynamic. Do you have a brother like this?